For 200 years, a deep porch sat on the face of nearly every house in America, and it was never just there for the rocking chair. That roofed slab of wood is a real piece of cooling hardware, blocking as much as 80% of the summer sun before it reaches a single window and holding the air against your wall 10 to 15 degrees cooler than the yard a few feet away, all of which required zero energy. But then, cheap air conditioning arrived, and within one generation, the porch all but disappeared from new construction. And the deeper reasons it vanished had almost nothing to do with whether it worked. Today, we're about to explore the surprising benefits of a porch, why they disappeared, and whether you should be building one for your home. But first, we need to understand why a house heats up in summer at all, because once you understand this, the whole logic of the porch falls into place. On a hot day, the single biggest way heat gets into your home isn't through the walls, it's through the glass. A well-insulated wall is built to stop heat, but a window is essentially a hole in that defense. An unshaded one behaves like a solar collector pointed straight at your living room. Standard window glass lets somewhere between 76 and 88% of the sun's shortwave radiation pass straight through it. Solar heat coming through unshaded windows can account for anywhere from 25 to over 40% of a home's entire cooling load. That's the problem the porch will solve, because you have two choices with that sunlight. You can stop it before it hits the glass, or you can deal with the heat after it's already inside. And both those solutions don't have the same impact. A curtain, or an interior blind, is the second kind. By the time you pull it, the sunlight has already crossed the glass and dumped its energy into the room. The blind warms up, re-radiates that heat, and now you've trapped it on the wrong side of the window. A porch, on the other hand, catches the sun outside the building entirely, before a single ray touches the glass. The porch didn't arrive as a single invention. It's a blend of cooling traditions that came together in the American South, and the roots run back across the Atlantic. The Yoruba people of West Africa built rectangular homes with thick mud walls and shaded communal spaces between them, creating open-air rooms made for gathering in a hot climate. When those building traditions were carried to the Caribbean in the 18th century, they merged with the work of the indigenous Taino people, who built a post and beam frame that let the roof extend past the walls. That overhang threw a band of shade along the structure and channeled air through it. On the island of Hispaniola, Afro-Caribbean builders fused these ideas into a narrow timber home with a gabled end turned to catch the prevailing breeze. After the Haitian Revolution, a wave of Afro-Caribbean builders arrived in New Orleans around 1810 and brought that design with them. It became the backbone of the American shotgun house, one room wide, several rooms deep, with the doors lined up front to back and a deep porch across the front. By the late 1800s, the porch had become standard equipment on the American home, and its clever design is quietly doing three things at once. The first stage is simply blocking the sun. In summer, the sun rides high across the sky, so it strikes your south-facing wall from a steep angle overhead. A porch roof, sticking out from the house, intercepts those high rays before they reach the windows, and on a well-sized south-facing overhang, that cuts the peak summer sun, hitting the glass by as much as 80%. The clever part is what happens in winter. The winter sun sits much lower on the horizon, so it slides in underneath that same porch roof and warms the house exactly when you want it. The second stage is the buffer. By shading not just the windows, but the wall, the porch floor, and the ground right next to the house, the porch keeps that whole zone from heating up in the first place. On an 85-degree day, unshaded concrete and brick next to a house can climb past 120 degrees Fahrenheit. And that heated surface warms the layer of air sitting against your wall by up to 15 degrees above the air over a shaded lawn. The porch kills that effect. It holds a pocket of air against the house that runs 10 to 15 degrees cooler than the baking, unshaded air just past the edge of the roof. And that cool pocket is what makes the third stage work, which is ventilation. When a breeze hits the house, it pushes air in through the windows on the windward side and pulls it out the other. But now the air being drawn in has been pre-cooled by sitting in that shaded buffer, instead of being scorched by hot pavement. And the effectiveness of the porch is not a hypothetical claim, it is a proven design solution. At Pacific Northwest National Laboratory, researchers ran two identical homes side by side and added exterior shades to the west-facing and south-facing windows of one of them. The shaded home used about 20% less cooling energy than the home with bare windows. Compared to a home using ordinary interior blinds, the rooms behind the exterior shades held 2 to 3 degrees cooler. And in a test that simulated a grid blackout on a sunny day, with no air conditioning running at all, the home shaded on the outside stayed a full 9 degrees cooler inside than the one relying on interior blinds. And this conclusion has been proven time and time again by recognized organizations. A California Public Utilities Commission assessment found adjustable exterior awnings delivered average cooling savings of 39%, though it varied a lot by climate. And in the hot, humid conditions the South knows well, the Florida Solar Energy Center monitored occupied homes and found that controlling heat at the roof and windows with reflective surfaces and overhangs cut average cooling electricity by 19%. It also shaved peak demand on hot afternoons by 22%, right at the hours when the grid strains hardest. If the porch worked that well for 200 years, the obvious question is, why nearly every new house stops having one? And the answer is a stack of mundane changes that all pushed in the same direction at once. The first was the evolution of 20th century technology. At the forefront of this was cheap air conditioning. Once you could buy cooling in a box, you no longer needed to engineer it into the house and spend time sitting in the shaded outdoor space. Then the television arrived, and we began spending more and more of our free time indoors. But cars had a hand in this too. As they began to reshape the street, the front-facing garage replaced the porch as the face of the house, and the street itself turned from a place you'd sit beside into a corridor of traffic noise and exhaust. And on the rare occasion you'd host people outside, then social life moved to the private backyard patio. The porch lost both of its jobs, cooling and gathering, in about one generation. There were also financial and legal factors at play in this disappearance. The mortgage system values a home largely on its gross living area, and that's defined strictly as finished, heated, enclosed square footage. So, a builder who spends $12,000 to $24,000 on a beautiful covered porch gets almost none of it back in the appraised value. But by spending that same money on enclosing more indoor space, every square foot adds to the home value. And finally, zoning was the last nail in the coffin. Most suburban codes require the house to sit a set distance back from the property line, often 20 to 35 feet, and they measure that setback to the foremost edge of the structure, which includes the porch roof. So adding a deep porch can push the house over the line, and that forces the owner into a variance process of public hearings and reviews that can drag on for months and still get denied. Between an appraisal that won't pay for it and a code that won't easily allow it, the porch didn't get banned. It just didn't fit into our modern world. Of course, there are some environments where porches are less effective. The porch is a ventilation machine, and ventilation only cools you if the outside air can actually carry your sweat away. In a humid, windless climate where the dew point climbs past 70 degrees, pulling that muggy outdoor air into the house does more harm than good because it raises the indoor moisture load and invites mold and condensation. There's also a placement rule that makes or breaks the whole thing, and it's the most common mistake people make. A deep horizontal porch roof only works on the south side of the house. Put one on a west-facing wall to fight the afternoon heat and it fails completely, because the late-day sun sits low on the horizon and slides in clean underneath the roof, straight into the glass, glare, and all. West and east faces need vertical shade instead, like shutters, exterior roller blinds, or a deciduous tree that leafs out in summer and drops bare in winter. But where the climate and the orientation are right, the economics are strong, because the comparison isn't really porch versus nothing. It's porch versus running an air conditioner continuously. A central AC system costs $5,000 to $12,000 up front, burns $500 to $2,000 of electricity every summer, and needs replacing in 15 to 20 years. A well-built porch costs more to build, but it runs on zero energy, asks for almost no maintenance, and lasts 50 to 100 years. One is a bill that never stops arriving, and the other is a structure that keeps paying you back in shade. And the modern building world has worked out how to add one without wrecking a high-performance home's airtight envelope. The technique is called monopoly framing. Instead of jamming the porch beams through the home's exterior wall, which punctures the air barrier and bleeds heat through every penetration, you build the house as a sealed box first, Then bolt the porch on as its own freestanding structure, resting on its own concrete piers. One Atlanta passive house did exactly that around a full-screened porch and still passed its airtightness test with almost no measurable leakage. If a full porch is out of reach, then a retractable awning runs $1,500 to $5,000 and cuts window heat gain by up to 60%. Simpler still, exterior solar screens go for $10 to $25 a square foot and knock down the direct sun on the glass. Neither one gives you the deep shaded air buffer or the breezy room to sit in, but both do the thing that matters most. They stop the sun outside the glass, not after it's already in your living room. The porch isn't a relic of a slower, more neighborly past. It's a piece of working physics that we stopped building for reasons that had almost nothing to do with whether it worked. And in the communities now designing for heat and grid strain, like the all-solar town of Babcock Ranch in Florida, that requires a deep porch on every home, it's quietly coming back as exactly what it always was. Free cooling, bolted to the front of the house. And if you're surprised that a roof and a breeze can do that much, wait until you see what a terracotta roof can do to keep a house cool all summer. That one's next.